Welcome back to another video. As we all know, Donald Trump recently just paid off his $175 million bond, being backed and financed by a guy who he previously had sued in his other administration a couple years ago. But what's more is that we have polls that indicate that this is a big win for Donald Trump. The lawyers that are working for him are clearly just bragging about their dub. But let's get right into the facts about this right now. Now, these numbers are more impressive the more you look into it, but just off the basis, you have a Harvard Harris poll that finds that 50% of respondents believe Trump should have to post and pay for the $450 million bond, which was basically the required number before it was changed like 2 weeks ago. Whereas, again, 48% say that he should pay a smaller bond. Well, why is that important, folks? Well, it says that 80% of Democrats want Donald Trump to pay the full $450 million. That is not good electorally. All this prosecution of Donald Trump is not strong. Why is that? Because independents and people that are even Democrats, according to this number, about 20% of them think that 450 million was too egregious. So Democrats saw this poll. Clearly, Letitia James, again, crazy leftist, anti-Trump person, I would say coercively or, in a way in tandem working with other liberals, their dogmatic approach is to say, well, you know what? We want him to pay more money, but even 20% of our own side say that's too far. And again, Democrats are losing the election on this track. So if we're looking at the math in the swing states, it looks to me as if they cannot afford to lose any Democrats. So by them losing 20% of them saying, you know what, you're actually overdoing it on Trump, then they're reaching a middle ground. Now, if we follow what made Bill Clinton so popular in 1996 was that he did something called triangulation. This was popularized around the time of Tony Blair as well. So again, 90s to 2000s, the Democrats under the Blue Dog Coalition actually reconsolidated their approach, and they said, you know what, actually, in fact, they've gone too left, under Dukakis against George H.W. Bush. And so ostensibly what we're talking about today, folks, is that Democrats overall, when they are going to win, it's because they come off as more moderate. So basically, they're looking at this Bill Clinton approach from like 20 years ago and saying, you know what, in fact, Joe Biden and liberals by proxy, whether that be the government, the media, they have to moderate a little bit. And what that means for us, people that support Trump, for example, is that they are going easy on him relative to what they could have done otherwise, which is to make him pay $450 million because they're so unreasonable that even though the media slanted to be liberal, they still have to meet the conservatives halfway and have Trump pay only 40% of what he had to before. This is at the face of it a big deal because, again, Donald Trump's net worth is going to explode and already is forecasted to be in about 6 months or way higher than it was before due to the Truth Social stock going to the moon, ostensibly like GameStop minus the downside. And so when we're referring to that, we're also looking at the fact that about 56% of independents are saying that Trump needs to pay a ton of money. But again, there's a disagreement over the amount. Now, Letitia James had made a point that she would have started seizing Trump's assets, and that's including taking his golf resort and his private estate called Stevens Springs in Winchester County, which I think is in New Jersey. But anyway, the point being is that had they started taking his assets, then it would have looked even worse. So think about that. 20% of Democrats already thought the $450 million was too egregious to take out of Donald Trump's pockets, which is to say that, of course, that if they start taking his like actual land, which would have happened had they not done this, lowering of the bond, then he would have eventually had a bigger victim complex that would have actually made him look like a martyr to the American people. And so they couldn't afford that. So when it comes to leftist talking points, you'll hear one of my contemporaries like Harry Sison say, well, I don't want to vote for a candidate that has like 100 lawsuits against him, which is like super stupid. You'll realize right off the bat that the guy is using a talking point that is red meat to his base. Again, liberal, neoliberal idiots. Yes, Trump haters, not anybody in the middle. And as you can see, 20% of Democrats in the poll say that 450 was too far. So what the Democrats are going to say now is actually we lowered it to 170 million or whatever it is. And so because of that, all of a sudden it's kosher. And I think Democrats are going to see this as like, oh, we're so nice, which is ridiculous. But anyway, I think this is just trying to save face. It's to stop the bleeding. This is not going to convince anybody like, wow, I'm going to vote Democrat now. But what it is doing is to say like, okay, maybe they're going to chill out. Now let's take a look at CNN Business to see what the liberal slant is against this, how they're going to spin this. W into an L for Donald Trump, okay? Well, billionaire whose firm backed Trump's $175 million bond reveals how the deal came together, okay? So let's see what Matt Egan, what kind of last name is that? Matt Egan, what is that from? Anyway, so we'll see what this guy has to say. So let's look at the spin. So right off the bat, they have a guy called Don Hankey, who's the chairman and majority shareholder of Knight Specialty Insurance. This is the guy who underwrote the former president's $175 million bond in the New York case. Now, when you look at this, he has some pleasantries, whatever, but they're looking into to see if this guy has any corruption. Because again, they have all the media on their side. They have the judges, a lot of judicial systems, liberal cities like New York. Again, jurisdiction falls into their purview. So when Trump is having problems, a lot of times they'll have the liberal New York judges, like Letitia James in this case, go and scrutinize Donald Trump. And they're going to do this with whoever gives them money, whoever supports him. So let's see what their best case is. Again, people are being paid six figures at least to write CNN articles, trying to make research on what to make Trump look bad as being. So let's look at this. So this Hanky guy has a fortune of $7.4 billion, which is huge. But when you look at this, you'll notice that they give all the details of the bond, whether that be the fraction of cash posted, etc. So again, all kosher, all above board. Now, it says that Hanky has confirmed to CNN that he and his wife, as well as their two sons, have donated to Trump's presidential campaigns and plan to support him in 24. So this is posted in a neutral sense, but it's clearly meant to make people think, oh my God, that is so immoral. How? So as if like some guy who didn't vote for Trump wouldn't be financing this at an interest rate. I mean, come on, anybody would. It's free money. But I mean, when we're looking at this, he says that although Hanky said that he has not heard directly from the president, he said Eric Trump did reach out on Tuesday to thank him for business. So again, now that's completely benign. But then look at the spin here. It's not the first time Hanky and Trump's businesses were intertwined. In 2022, Axos Bank, which is the California lender, loaned Trump $100 million to refinance a mortgage on Trump Tower. Okay. Although Hanky is a leading shareholder in Axos and was at the time of 2022 for that loan, he said that he was not aware of the Trump Tower loan at the time. Now, that seems like a bunch of bullshit, to be honest. If, there's a bank with a $100 million loan, odds are everybody who worked for them knew about it. But even if he's lying about that, that's not a big deal. So again, this is what their spin is. This is their content. This is the CNN content. This is the liberal bull jive. Okay. So 2 years ago, the guy who supported Trump already gave him a loan that was for $100 million. Okay. So what? Again, a loan at the same interest rate as other people's, because if there was a difference in the amount of interest that you had to pay on the loan, then they would mention this, obviously, or else maybe this guy's not doing his freaking job and maybe I should be hired. But the point is that, I mean, this is a liberal slant. They're going to imply that it's corrupt because evidently, like Trump was acquaintances with the guy who supported him that was in a position to provide business. And it's just keeping the money. It's like an incestuous kind of like keeping money with Republicans and not getting a loan from a liberal banker. I mean, it's not this crazy thing. So since we're in the neighborhood of legal trials and politics, let's check in on the prosecution of Joe Biden's son. Okay. So again, if my son were 50 years old, I think his character is, free game to talk about. A lot of liberals will be like, well, he's not the president. It's like, well, if Eric Trump had this happen, if Donald Trump Jr. had this happen, I think liberal media would cover it. Okay. That's to be honest, but let's look at this. So as of December 7th of 2023, prosecutors accused Biden of willfully failing to pay his taxes and to file tax returns on time, as well as tax evasion and filing fraudulent tax forms. Now, what's the cope? Well, his attorney says that he did pay the taxes belatedly, so which is late, with penalties and interest. They also said that he struggled with a debilitating drug addiction at the time. So that's your defense. The Trump defense is something akin to, well, in fact, I can have the bank that loaned me this thing testify that it was completely above board. Whereas the Hunter Biden defense is that he was so drug addicted on crack that he couldn't pay his taxes, which shows a level of just retarded, first of all. And second of all, that's just, like, also, you should have people pay, like, you should pay people to do the taxes for you if you're smart, if you're Hunter, but he's so out of it that he doesn't even follow through on that. And Joe Biden knew that his son had a crack addiction, but couldn't even follow through to be like, hey, I know so many people doing taxes in spring. Hey, son, did you do your taxes? He's be like, it's crack. And also, like, by the way, why is he doing crack? Why not coke? I'm just saying, like, if you're rich, you're the president's son, senator's son, you're doing crack like a hobo outside of McDonald's. What are you, a loser? Am I going to see you at the gas station tomorrow? Like, what the fuck? Anyway, now look at this prosecution from last summer, okay? There was a criminal investigation then where they negotiated, that's Biden and the government, I think, to a two-part deal in which the president's son would plead guilty to a tax misdemeanor and enter an agreement intended to revoke a gun charge. So basically, from what I understand, Hunter Biden left like a pistol in a garbage can, which is illegal, something like that, like an unregistered firearm or something. Anyway, I haven't looked into it, but so he had a gun charge, which is a big deal. If a Republican had that happen, they'd put him in prison for like 5 years. They'd say, like, you know what, dude, this is unregistered. You had it in a fucking garbage can with the lid up or whatever. I mean, it's just a mess. Something a crack addict would do. So anyway, We have this happen. They are willing to drop that more serious charge for tax misdemeanors. So this is how bad the legal system is, where this is even allowed. And the only defense that Hunter Biden has is that he was on drugs, which are fucking illegal. Which are illegal. Why is he not in jail for these drugs? It's ridiculous. You're telling me he's never been pulled over with crack in his car? I know for a fact he has. In fact, he rented a car in which had crack in it, crack paraphernalia. Did he go to jail for that? The answer is no. Why? Somebody made a call. Who? It's Joe Biden. Wow. Okay, great. So you can just see how the legal system works now. But in resume, basically, the Trump dub in this case is that electorally he's way better off than he was before, if only because now he definitely won't have his things taken, which is kind of emasculating, though that even has an upside of its own where he's even more of a victim of the liberal, paradigm. But what's also interesting about this case is that he, matter of factly, just has too much money. Like liberals were starting off 2024 with the idea that Trump will have a net worth of about 2 to 3 billion and have all of these cases, whereas a lot of these cases are falling through. They're being pushed to post 2024 and just won't have a material impact on the election. And of the ones that are still around, Trump has been paying them all off, and his net worth exploded due to Truth Social, which most people didn't see coming. So trust the plan people are really vindicated, and people that are doubters are looking really dumb. So liberals are having to do half measures in regards to prosecuting Trump because clearly it's such an erroneous sort of abuse of the justice system that even they have to walk back a lot of their sentiments, a lot of their prosecutorial prowess. And so that's actually a big dub for Trump because that means he has leverage. That means that the liberals inherently understand that they're on the back foot when it comes to this election, which is a great sign for him. And when it comes to the final thing I'll say adios, bye.